I don't enjoy stabbing people, but I do enjoy reading about people stabbing each other. You know, there's nothing I love more than a good soul-crushing book. Hello everybody, it's Sara. Welcome back. Today I'm here to talk to you about so many fantasy series that I want to read. I said so many, it's more like 5, but anyway. So as you may already know, fantasy is my favorite genre to read from. I just love it so much. I love everything about it, all of the magic, the dragons, the magical quests, the powers, everything. And in the last couple of months there are certain fantasy series that I've been really itching to just devour, and so I thought that I would just do a video talking about all of those for you today. So without any further ado, because like I said, I have 5 series to talk about, let's just dive right into all of this. And the first series I want to talk about is the Assassin's Apprentice series by Robin Hobb. I have known about Robin Hobb for a very long time. She is a very popular author in fantasy. She is kind of like a classic fantasy author that a lot of people who really love fantasy read. I haven't read any of her books, which I know maybe is kind of surprising, but yeah, I have known her for a while, but I was just not really considering reading her books. I don't know why, you know, it's kind of like The Lord of the Rings. It's those kind of series that you know that if you love fantasy you should probably read them because you would probably really love them, but I just never really got around to it. And then Regan from Peruse Project, she read this entire trilogy I think last year or at the beginning of this year, and she fell completely in love with it, and she talks about it non-stop in her videos. So at some point I was just like, you know what, she is really making me want to read this series, so I definitely want to now. So from what I know about it, The Assassin's Apprentice is this trilogy, and it follows our main character who is an assassin, and I think his name is Fitz or something like that. And in the first book we follow him as he is young and grows up, and basically what happens, the reason why he's an assassin is because he's the bastard son of the king, and so because he's a bastard he can't really be a prince, so they just decide to use him as an assassin. And so this trilogy basically follows him from his childhood to his adulthood, and I assume we follow him on a lot of quests and different adventures and different, you know, deals. I assume some murders occur. From what I've heard, the first book in the series is kind of hard to get into because the plot is very slow and there's a lot of like exposition and world building, but that doesn't really scare me. So yeah, I'm really excited to dive into this. I think it's going to be a classic like middle-age inspired fantasy with a ton of just fun characters. Apparently the last one absolutely destroys your soul, so I'm also all here for that. There's nothing I love more than a good soul-crushing book, and I feel like we all know that by now. So yeah, definitely this series has been on my radar for a little while, and I do believe that I might want to start it before the end of the year, or maybe directly at the beginning of 2021, because really I'm super excited about it. And it is the first series in like 1,000 of series that Robin Hobb has written into the Farseer universe, I think that's how it's called. So if I enjoy it, I know that I have so much more to look forward to, so that's also absolutely amazing. Love when authors do that. And the next series is, I think, the only YA series on that list, which is kind of surprising when I think about it, but anyway, it is the Great Library series by Rachel Kane. Now, from what I know about this series, basically it takes place into a very big library, as you can probably guess from the name of the series. The first book is called Ink and Bone, and it's also absolutely stunning, which is definitely one of the reasons why I'm really intrigued by this series. But from what I can gather from the synopsis, in this world the library is very powerful. They keep all of the knowledge for themselves, and one of the main character goes over there as kind of like a spy for his family, because his family are very active into the black market of knowledge. They're basically trying to steal from the very big powerful libraries and trying to give knowledge to everybody, and so the main character is hired at the big library to try and steal some stuff for his family's business. And that sounds super interesting. You all know how much I love libraries and books about books. It's one of those tropes that gets me every time. I get super excited every single time. There's like this magic system that also revolves around books, and I feel like you get the knowledge from the books and it gives you all of the power that there is in that book. I don't know how it works, but I'm very pumped to know about it. So yeah, it sounds super interesting and mysterious and charming, and from what I've heard, it's one of those hidden gems into the YA fantasy category. So yeah, pretty pumped about this one too. Then the next series that I want to talk about in this video is a duology that has been on many of my TBRs, but I still haven't gotten around to it because I'm terrible, and that duology is the Fundryside duology by Robert Jackson Bennett. This duology apparently is set into a fantasy world very inspired by Venice, and we follow our main character who is a very good thief, and she is hired by other people to go and steal a very valuable object. And the way that the magic system works into this fantasy is also super appealing to me. From what I've heard, the people who have power into this world can change the material that an object is made of. So say if you want a door to be made of stone instead of wood, you can do that. Which sounds so cool. I've never read any fantasy inspired by Venice in itself, so that world building sounds great. The magic system is also very intriguing to me, and apparently also there's a sapphic romance in this book, so I'm absolutely down for all of this. And we all know I love myself a good thief and heist story. I mean, Six of Crows is my favorite series, like one of my favorite series of all time, so you know, that's not surprising at all. So yeah, Foundryside is definitely one of those series that has been under my radar for so long, and I'm so intrigued by it, so I don't know why I haven't picked it up yet, but it is definitely going to happen very soon because I need to read it. I need to read a good fantasy story, and I know that this one is probably going to become one of my faves. Then the next fantasy series that I really want to get to very soon is the Queen of the Tearling series by Erica Johansson. This is a series that I have heard a lot of mixed things about. I know that a lot of people really love it, a lot of people really hate it. Two of my favorite booktubers of all time have very different opinions about it. Regan from Peruse Project loves it. Hannah from A Clockwork Reader absolutely hated it. So like, honestly, normally I trust these two, so who knows what will happen to me once I start reading this series. So from what I know about this trilogy, this is about a princess who was banned from her kingdom, and she is basically trying to come back and take her rightful place on the throne, and that is all I know, basically. I know there's like an evil queen at some point. There's like this jewel or like magical stone also that comes into play in there, but I don't know too much about the plot, and I kind of want to keep it that way. One of the things that I've heard about this series is that the first book is very slow and not a lot of things actually happen in the plot, but honestly I feel like it's going to be this kind of like court intrigue fantasy type of book with everybody stabbing each other in the back, which I do really enjoy. I don't enjoy stabbing people, but I do enjoy reading about people stabbing each other, you know? And also, we all know I'm a character-driven reader, so even if the plot is super boring, if I love the characters, I honestly probably will not care. So yeah, I still have high hopes for this series, even if the opinions are very divided. I also hope there's like a good, very angsty romance in it, and I do believe there is. I love myself a good, sad romance that is going to pull at all of my heartstrings. So yeah, definitely also looking forward to this one, even if I'm a little bit scared. But you know, the only way to find out if I like it is to read it. And then finally, the last series that I want to talk about in today's video is actually a series that I've already started but never finished. And I did not think that I was going to finish it, but then I heard certain things about the last books that made me kind of excited to read it. And that series is The Bear and the Nightingale series by Catherine Arden. I have read the first book, The Bear and the Nightingale, but I honestly think that I would have to reread it before reading the rest of the trilogy. And the reason why I decided to put it on this list is because I have heard so many people say that the second book and the last book completely destroyed them. Because when I read the first book, I enjoyed it, but it also wasn't like a new big favorite of mine, so I didn't jump directly into the second book after reading it. But then, you know, I read other things got in the way, and I just ended up never reading the second and the third book. But basically, the Bear and the Nightingale series is highly inspired by Russian folklore, which makes it super atmospheric, which is one thing that I really enjoyed. And in the first book, we follow our main character as she is trying to save the magical beings and the magical force who live in her village, because the woman that her father married after the passing of her mother wants to destroy all magic in their little town. So we follow her as she is basically trying to save the magic, but also gets into trouble when she stumbles upon this very dangerous magical being in the woods. So yeah, that's what I remember from the first book, and like I said, the atmosphere was great, the world building was incredible, it was super dark, and I just really loved the setting. I feel like my problem was that I didn't really get attached to the main character, but I've heard that like in the second book she really grows into a much stronger and interesting female protagonist, so I have high hopes that if I reread the first book and then try and read the second one, I'm probably actually going to really enjoy this series. And I've also heard, just like with the Queen of the Tearling, that there is a very angsty and wonderful romance at the center of that series, so obviously I'm pumped. Alright, so there you all have it. These are some fantasy series that I absolutely need to read because I'm pretty sure I'm really going to enjoy them. Obviously there are so many more of them because I love fantasy so much, so if you have any recommendations also let me know down below in the comments. I hope you really enjoyed this video. If you did, please don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!